All right, let's talk about a book with a title that is absolutely designed to make you stop and think. There's no such thing as business ethics. It's a pretty bold statement from leadership guru John C. Maxwell. So, what on earth does he actually mean by that? Let's dig in.
So right off the bat, this is the big question, isn't it? Is this just a catchy title to sell books, or is Maxwell pointing to a much deeper problem in how we approach right and wrong, especially in our careers? Okay, so the first piece of Maxwell's argument is all about dismantling what he calls the ethics illusion. This is the idea that we can somehow have different sets of moral rules for the different hats we wear in life. And he has a name for this core problem: ethical compartmentalization. You know what I'm talking about. It's this tendency we have to build little boxes in our minds, one for work, one for home, one for when we're with friends. And the rules in one box, well, they don't always apply in the others.
And this quote from Maxwell just nails it. He says the whole idea of business ethics is a trap. There's only ethics, period. The moment you start creating different rule books for different areas of your life, that's where the trouble starts. It creates this internal tug of war. And honestly, it's an open invitation for making some really poor choices. The whole point is that real integrity demands one standard. One. So, if splitting up our ethics is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this is where Maxwell argues for something radically simple, a way to cut through all the noise and find some real clarity. And here it is. His solution is probably the most famous ethical principle in history, the Golden Rule. He pitches it as the ultimate filter for every single decision you make. Forget about some 1,000-page corporate ethics manual. All you need to do is ask yourself one simple question. How would I want to be treated in this situation? That's it. And what's so powerful about this, and what this slide really shows, is that this isn't some new age idea he just cooked up. The Golden Rule is about as universal as it gets. You find it woven into the fabric of nearly every major culture and religion on the planet. That gives it this incredible, time-tested authority. Okay, having one simple rule sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real, often cutthroat world of business? Let's see how Maxwell says this plays out when the rubber meets the road. Maxwell immediately goes after the biggest objection, that cynical voice that I think we all have in the back of our heads sometimes. It's the voice that whispers, being ethical is a handicap. To really win, you gotta be willing to bend the rules. You know, the classic good guys finish last argument. But he calls that out as a totally false choice. He flips the script and argues that integrity isn't a limitation at all. It's your greatest strategic advantage, because in the long run, things like trust, reputation, and strong relationships are what build lasting success. And all of those are direct results of ethical behavior. And here, he breaks it down even further, into two essential parts. He says, look, it's not enough to just know the rule. To live an ethical life, you need two things. You need the standard, that's the Golden Rule, and you need the will, the personal grit and courage to actually do it, especially when it's tough. This slide lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got knowledge, knowing the right thing to do. But on the other, you have courage, having the guts to actually do the right thing. And Maxwell's point is that knowledge without courage is totally useless. You can have the best moral compass in the world, but if you're not willing to follow it, what's the point?
Okay, now we're getting to the bottom line. This isn't just a moral philosophy lecture. Maxwell is making a business case. He brings up research showing that companies that truly walk the walk on ethics, the ones that are consistent, actually perform better financially. And boom, here's the data to back it up. A study he talks about in the book is just incredible. It showed that a $30,000 investment in ethically run companies would have grown to over $1 million in 30 years. That absolutely crushed the return from the Dow Jones. The numbers don't lie, ethics pays. And here's the real-world proof. This isn't just a theory. Jim Blanchard, the CEO of Cinevis, a company that was once named the best company to work for in America, he built his entire corporate culture on this one single idea. This shows you can run a massively successful, multi-billion-dollar company with the Golden Rule as pretty much your only rule.
So, Maxwell makes a really compelling case. But for the full picture, no book is perfect. So let's take a fair, balanced look at where this framework might have some weak spots.
Okay, the strengths are obvious, right? It's practical, it's simple, and the examples are fantastic. But on the flip side, you could argue it oversimplifies some really complex, messy ethical dilemmas. The research isn't super deep, and yeah, there are some religious undertones that might not resonate with everyone.
So after weighing all of that, our final grade for There's No Such Thing as Business Ethics is a very solid 7.8 out of 10. It's an incredibly useful book, mainly because it's so actionable. And here's how we got to that number. It scores really high, an 8.5 for practical applicability, because you can literally start using this idea today. Writing clarity is a strong 8.0. Where it loses a few points is on research quality, which we scored at a 6.5, just because it leans more on anecdotes than hard academic studies. And just for a quick snapshot, here are the essential details on the book itself. So its genre is business ethics and leadership development. It was published back in 2003, and really the target audience is anyone in a leadership role. Managers, entrepreneurs, professionals, basically anyone who wants a clearer path for making tough decisions.
All right, let's bring this all home. How can you actually use this idea right now? Because Maxwell's framework is at its best when it stops being a concept and becomes a tool.
You can turn the golden rule into a super simple 3-step mental filter. Before any decision that matters, just step 1, pause, take a breath. Step 2, ask yourself that one crucial question. And step 3, act on what your gut tells you. It's a habit that can literally reshape how you approach everything. This idea that one consistent standard can change everything is just so powerful. If you want to dive even deeper into how integrity creates tangible business results, I'd highly recommend The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, or Jim Collins' Good to Great, which really digs into the character of great leaders. But the real test isn't reading more books, it's doing something. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. If you really, truly applied this one rule to every single decision for just 1 week, what do you think would change?